You're listening to the RMPodcast, the official podcast of Red Moon Productions. Here are your hosts, Brandon Davidson, Keith Cheatham, and Sean Sebastian. Enjoy.
Welcome to yet again another episode of the Red Moon Podcast, live every single Tuesday night on all your favorite social media networks. That's right, live at 9 p.m. Eastern to bring you all the latest headlines in movie news and the best reviews in the industry. That's right, and we're also live not only on Tuesdays, but our audio drops on Thursday. Be sure to download on your favorite podcast catcher app. I'm one of your hosts, Brandon Davidson, alongside our normal new host, Sean Sebastian, and
hello.
He's a new creature. He barely knows any English.
Hello. I know all of the English.
Whoa, he just picked it up.
All of it.
He's alien. He's from another planet.
Huh.
He's one of those aliens that was walking around. What was it in Southern California? Where was the sighting at? It was in some mall.
It was in Miami.
Was it Miami?
Yeah.
He's reading our minds. He picked up on our language that quick.
Dan Aykroyd's seen aliens.
The alien of Miami.
He's seen crystal skulls, apparently.
Oh, no, he's obsessed with the crystal skulls.
Yes.
Wait, is that the same crystal skulls that Harrison Ford found?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh,
well,
wow.
I mean, that is an actual, there is an actual myth behind that. That wasn't something they just made up for that movie.
I honestly thought it was just this
No,
just like nuclear bombs exploding.
Yeah.
And not
fridges.
destroying a lead liner fridge.
No, that George Lucas has been obsessed with that forever. That's why he's always wanted to do. That's why they never made it for a long time. Because Steven Spielberg was like, no.
You know what's sad though is it could have been a good movie.
It could have.
Oh yeah.
It had potential.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It started off great. As the movie kept going, it got worse.
I mean, there's still aspects of it I like better than Dial of Dysentery.
Of course.
And Shia LaBeouf, he was an actor, and now he's going to be a priest.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Deacon. He's not quite priest yet.
He wants to
confirmed.
he wants to go to the deacon, and then he wants to be a member of the clergy.
I know, but he hasn't there yet.
No, he's got to work his way.
Yeah, he's got to work his way.
You got to fit child rapist in there somewhere.
Well,
and then get to priesthood.
Yeah.
No. That's after priesthood.
He's got to become a priest first.
Yeah, that's right.
That's the way it's gone in the past.
Yeah, normally.
Get it straight. Get it straight.
Hey, you know what? Props to Shia taking it straight seriously.
I like it.
Yeah.
Hulk Hogan got baptized 2 weeks ago.
That was
crazy.
awesome.
Hulkster. Yeah.
I mean, I wonder how much he's done in his past that, it's
The
like
one thing I was upset about, I will say, when he was in there getting dunked, I really wanted him to rip his shirt off before he got dunked.
It's all for you, brother. Little Hulkamaniacs. It's like all for you, father. My brother.
Yes.
That would be it.
Brother in Christ.
Yes.
I'm a brother in Christ now. Take your vitamins and say your
Then
prayers.
Macho Man comes out and he's like, "Oh yeah."
Out of the clouds.
Hallelujah. Oh, is he dead?
Yeah, he's dead.
Macho Man's dead?
Macho Man's dead.
Oh, gosh. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Yep. He's up there with the Von Erichs and Ultimate Warrior. That's right.
Owen Hart.
Yeah.
Owen Hart.
Is it Owen or Brett?
Owen. Brett's still alive.
Yeah, Bret Hart's still alive.
Brett's still alive. Man, we were all just talking about this earlier. We're all on a wrestling kick again. I think it all happens for us once a year for every single one of us.
It happened to me after the Iron Claw. I
honestly think that's
I
what.
really wish I could watch the old.
I think that's what
matches.
triggered it for me, but also it's WrestleMania season.
Yeah, I
you
tend
going
to get
into
back
WrestleMania
anyway.
into April, and I'm just like, I want to catch up on, what the storylines are. The Rock came back on Raw this past week or last week.
Last Monday.
This past Monday. I don't know what happened.
Challenging Roman Reigns.
But yeah,
he's coming after that head of the table.
Keith knows the whole thing.
He does.
Great.
He does it.
I got the whole
he was
story.
over here doing the review, and he was breaking it down for me. I'm like, man,
it was good stuff.
I haven't caught up on
good
nothing.
Stuff.
But I don't know. It's just entertaining. It's a male soap opera. What can we say?
It is. It really is.
Yeah.
It's a male soap
and I
opera.
think too many people, I mean, not only just the Iron Claw take that into consideration, but men have always stood up for the athleticism of wrestling.
Oh, I mean, they
however
still,
fake
yeah.
the stories are.
Oh, yeah.
Those dudes are taking some bumps,
Yeah.
man.
Like, they have to know what they're doing, or they could actually like hurt or kill each other. So.
And I mean, I just watched. It was the Monday Night Wars, that docu-series on Peacock, because it has the WWE Network.
yeah,
Man, I'm telling you, the stuff they did during the Attitude Era was insane. It was crazy. I mean, Mick Foley flying off that cage. I mean, that's the one that everybody goes back to, but that dude's just nuts. I mean, it's crazy he's still alive. It's nuts. Also, shout out to my neighbor Brian.
Dog.
We hope you get better. By the way, Brian, he's suffering from
He's got some sicky ills.
some nastiness over there, and we just want to say, hey, we're with you, man. We appreciate the beer gave us for
better.
Christmas. It's a Christmas ale. We're getting to it a little bit after the season.
Yeah,
But-
we got it a little late. We didn't get it late. We're drinking it late.
That's
Yeah.
true.
Yeah.
But I'm pretty good. Tasted it, not bad. We gave us just enough to enjoy on the show. Appreciate the
Scotch
gift.
Ale. Yeah, it was different.
Is it butterscotch?
It says it has notes
that-
of caramel and a warm finish.
I don't know about the warm finish. I don't taste the warm finish.
Well, I think that's supposed to be a feeling of warmth. I don't know. If
Oh,
you
I
can
didn't-
taste,
yeah,
I don't know.
I definitely don't
I don't
have
know
that.
if you can taste warmth.
I mean, it's
I don't know
cold.
that warm is a taste.
Which it's a cold, rainy day. Sean, what about you over there? You tasting that scotch,
Yeah, it's good.
butterscotch?
Yeah, buddy. That warm finish is that 7.5%.
Oh,
That's what
I
that
didn't
is.
see the alcohol content. I didn't see the percentage.
I get a little bit of a spice in the back of the throat. Maybe that's the warm. It's got
That
some
might be-
cinnamon or
where's
some
this from?
nutmeg or something
Yeah.
in it.
Bellsbeer.com.
It's from Michigan.
Michigan.
Comstock,
Yeah.
Michigan.
Yeah.
Comstock.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Check it out. Go to bellsbeer.com.
Yeah.
Bell's Brewery.
Bells beats Battlestar Galactica. Alrighty, guys, we got a great show planned.
Yeah.
Second show of the new year.
Yeah.
Got another wonderful review for you all. That's right. We're talking about somebody's birthday who was just this past week. We did this. This was totally spontaneous.
Yeah.
We didn't plan this
We
at
didn't
all.
know. Yeah.
But it kind of worked out this way.
I didn't know it before, and I didn't remember it now. So
Well, Mr.
That's how bad
Nicolas
it is.
Cage,
Yeah.
60 years old.
he's only 60?
Yeah.
I swear I
really?
thought he was older.
No, I
Wow.
was
60?
60. I thought he was
He
a little
looks
bit,
older.
Yeah.
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 Man.
he's downright decrepit.
I wouldn't say
I don't know. I don't feel
man.
like he looked. It was Sunday. That was his birthday.
60
I feel
years
like
old.
60's about right.
I just for some reason thought he
No,
was
looks,
older.
He looks 60 to me.
I thought he was like 65.
In the face.
Yeah.
I don't know. When you see his his nasty legs and feet,
Well,
and flabby
well,
arms. and
I know
stuff in
why
this
he looks
movie.
so young. He took John Travolta's face.
That's true.
That's why.
Face off.
But yes, it was his 60th birthday this past week.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
completely did not know that, but it ended up falling into perfect alignment with our review.
Yeah.
Which is one that came back out in November. Was it November when it
Of
dropped?
November.
1991. Con Air.
1991.
Yeah, Con Air.
I don't know. We're going way back.
yeah,
Just made
yeah.
that up.
Yeah, no, November was when it had its wide
Its wide
US
release.
Yeah.
So it was drumming up a lot of talk in the indie circles. Obviously caught our attention.
I mean, Nick Cage himself got a Golden Globe nom.
Yeah.
For the movie.
Speaking of the Globes,
Yeah, we'll get there later.
those
I
are
suppose.
those have come and gone.
But yeah, it had some award buzz. There's not really much out right now. Hollywood keeps warning of, there's not going to be much to release this year. Well, January's proving true so far because there ain't crap worth seeing out there.
I would agree.
Even some of the newer releases that got some award buzz, like even that award buzz has died immediately around some of the movies, like both Ferrari and Color Purple. A lot before they released, there was a lot of award talk.
Oh yeah, no doubt.
Now that they've released, it's kind of like radio silent.
Which
They're
is
like,
crazy because the Color Purple was drumming up oh my gosh, it's beating the box office.
It's really
It's
died
doing
off
great.
pretty fast, and it's like, okay,
So
I think there's not many good movies coming out this year because they know something's coming.
yeah.
I'm just asking. a question.
I'm
Maybe a
speculating.
conspiracy.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what I
It's,
think.
it's the election
everybody,
year. And,
everybody's talking in that regard.
yeah. They're
all
all
sitting
sitting
here
here
thinking-
Hollywood's like, let's not waste our money this year.
I mean, we
'cause
had
we're
we
gonna be
had
locked down again.
the
Yeah.
strike. We had the Writers Guild and actors sitting there telling us, "Oh yeah, we're not working,
Yeah.
so therefore you're not going to get anything good." I think it's all going to come front loaded in the beginning of the year after Oscars, and it's gonna be a long year in that
It's
regard.
gonna be interesting.
But until then, the movie. Oh my gosh,
That's the sign of a good beer,
That's
though.
the warmth.
that was the
That's the
warmth.
warmth.
The warmth.
It comes up. It doesn't go down.
Yeah.
The review we're
That
talking
was
about
the warm finish.
is Dream Scenario, starring Nicolas Cage. Here is our review.
First quarter Hollywood blues. With not a lot to choose from, and Hollywood's doomsday clock reset as they warn against a drought of movies this year, January is already looking twice as barren as usual. With limited options this week, we have picked an indie from A24 that released in November, but has gotten some recent attention amongst the award circles. Dream Scenario, a film written and directed by newcomer Christopher Borgli, stars Nicolas Cage as Paul Matthews, an unassuming and mundane biology professor who soon becomes the subject of people's dreams all over the world. Paul is an insecure man who fears fading into mediocrity and obscurity. Desperate to make a name for himself with dreams of writing a book in his field, Paul has lacked the discipline to realize this dream. But when he has skyrocketed to fame through the dreams society is having of him, he sees it as an easy way to fast-track his own dreams. Paul's self-serving attitude, however, puts him at odds with his family, and ultimately the rest of the world when the dreams he inhabits take an unpleasant turn. Dream Scenario is an abstract yet intriguing dive into the human psyche, handling themes of fame and inadequacy skillfully with a unique spin. Paul's story of his inferiority complex and the wedge it creates in his family is captivating and emotionally compelling. All led by Nicolas Cage, who gives one of the best performances he's had in years, a performance that has earned him a Golden Globe nomination. The film is clever, unique, and full of both suspenseful and hilarious yet sentimental moments that give the characters weight. Despite this, however, the movie does sadly lose its way halfway through. The narrative thread following the rift between Paul and his family gets muddied as the film begins to focus on Paul's obsession with how the rest of the world sees him, and what starts as an excellently paced film building Paul's rise takes a drastic sharp turn as he goes from beloved to hated. And while this is the logical path for the story to take, the turnaround is so abrupt it is jarring compared to the movie's pacing in the beginning. Throw in some themes about commercializing dreams and a plot device that only exists as a deus ex machina to allow Paul one final attempt at bandaging his broken marriage, and the movie just loses its way in the end. Dream Scenario is a film worth checking out for Cage's performance at the least, as he does give a phenomenal one. The story itself ultimately is less impactful than it otherwise could have been, despite the solid effort and promising first half. In a year of subpar filmmaking, Dream Scenario is a well-made movie, but ultimately won't be a film that is remembered through the test of time. I give Dream Scenario 2.5 out of 4 stars.
There it is, 2.5 out of 4 stars for Dream Scenario. So let's go around the table real quick. Keith, that was your official review.
Yeah, that was mine.
Let's go ahead. And Sean, what was your review? What did you give it?
I gave it 3.5.
Whoa, man. Okay. Firing up to 3.5.
Yeah, I loved it.
Okay. All right. Honestly, the first thing that I saw when looking up clips for this movie was Nicolas Cage going, "It's an instant classic." I swear, I had to laugh as soon as he
That's
said
awesome.
it.
Yeah.
That's
It
hilarious.
was just like, oh, of course, Nicolas Cage. I settled on 2.5 as well.
Okay.
So let's discuss it because
Yeah.
there's some wide variance here. Yeah, let's throw down. Who wants to go first? Talking about it. Keith, we kind of heard your
you've
review.
heard my review.
Your points. Sean, what about you? What'd you love about this film?
I loved it the more it ramped up. When it first started off, I was kind of at that like 2.5 kind of place, and then by the end of the film, I started to notice more things that I like. I was telling Keith over next door while we were having a cigar. I was like, after the movie Inception and me revisiting that movie years ago, like I went on this huge deep dive into like dream interpretation and all this stuff and read all kinds of different crap about it.
Yeah.
And so there was so much stuff in this movie that kept hearkening back to things that I had read from psychologists about your dreams that I thought the movie was just genuinely brilliant in everything. Like there's so many, I was trying to tell Keith, like there's moments in the film where I feel like, you know, psychologists say that in your dreams you are every character. Anybody that shows up in your dreams each one of them is a part of your subconscious, different part of yourself. And then I felt like certain characters in the movie definitely portrayed a different part of his personality throughout the film. Like the dean of the school that he worked at was real passive and didn't want to do anything about what was happening around him. Just kind of, and I felt like that played to the passive nature of Nicolas Cage in the beginning of the movie. And then towards the end of the movie, when Nicolas Cage begins to get more frustrated, that's when the dean is more, we got to let you go. We got to separate you from the students, and it becomes more aggressive. Nicolas Cage thought he was very smart. He shows that multiple times in the film with some of the younger crowd, like shows his intelligence and how he was above advertising for Sprite and different things like that. And I felt like the pompous professor that wouldn't invite him to his little intellectual dinners was that part of his personality. Different things like that. There's also a part in the movie where Nicolas Cage dreams about himself attacking himself in the third person. And I was just actually reading it because I did get it wrong when I was telling Keith that you can dream in the first person. Mm-hmm. But when you dream in first person, that supposedly, this is nobody knows for sure, but psychologists say that when you dream in the first person, that's you accepting that part of yourself. Mm-hmm. If you dream in the third person, whatever it is you're doing in your dream in the third person is something about yourself that your mind can't accept, and therefore it does not view it as
it's
from your perspective. Yes, an external
that
thing.
That makes sense.
So there's that scene, and then I was even just pulling this one up.
Even real quick, even knowing that insight now, if I dream about myself in third person, I can think
weird. There's a lot of stuff in the movie.
Maybe that's more about myself now.
Yeah,
maybe I can take that as a projection.
Yeah.
Okay, but anyways, continue.
No, it's one other thing that stood out for me. As soon as I saw the scene, I was like, I knew I had read about that, but in your dreams, and this is psychologists. There's all kinds of stuff on the internet about this. If you look it up, people cannot turn lights off in their dreams. They cannot control or manipulate light. Whatever light is there, it's there. I mean, there's questions. If you just Google it, like even on Quora, there's thousands of questions. Why am I unable to turn off the lights in my dreams? Why do I feel powerless and the lack of control of light in my dreams? Nicolas Cage.
You're almost right. It's like anytime a scene is set in a dream, the scene itself doesn't change.
Nothing
for the entirety of the dream.
Yeah, if it's daylight, it's daylight. You can't turn it to night in your dream.
Right.
Each scene would be you'd have to go into another, so to speak, scene.
Like almost come out of your sleep and then go back.
There's the scene in the movie where Nicolas Cage is in the basement and he cannot turn the lights off. He flips all the switches in the basement and cannot get that fluorescent light to turn off, and he ends up just trying to sleep through it. So I thought I'm like, this is all a dream. Like the whole thing. And after the movie ended, the way it ended, and him saying, I wish this was, real, it just led me to believe that the entire scenario was all a dream. When I looked up what Nicolas Cage and the director have both said about the film afterwards, they just say it's open
to interpretation.
Yeah. They're like, we're not going to say that he wasn't dreaming because it's set up in a way that you can believe he was. Mm-hmm. And it's set up in a way that you can believe, no, his life really did play out like this.
And it's interesting.
I just thought that's brilliant.
I almost thought that going into it. That's from the way it starts. I thought, okay, I was looking for those clues or just little clever tricks here and there. And then as the movie kept going, I kept thinking, okay, no, this is just hitting more on just the reality of not necessarily that he was in a dream. I could take it from the perspective of, if maybe certain characters, whether it be the woman that he's trying to garner respect from, or to say, hey, put me down as a a person who attributed this knowledge to this piece of work, and he sees it as, oh, she's stealing my work, when in reality, if it was a dream, if the whole thing was a dream scenario, he could be thinking of himself in all of these different circumstances through the lenses of these people, and he's being rejected, when in reality he's much bigger in terms of his knowledge, his wisdom, and everything, this influence that he feels he has on people. He's much, he's played that up much more in his own head, therefore in his dreams, than he really is in real life.
That's true, yeah.
So I kind of took that angle, but I also took the angle of it just being played out straight, as if the dreams that were happening, because a lot of them are much more vivid, especially when the students, they cut to their explanation of the dreams, and it showcases how he shows in them. And for me, if it was, I took it as more it played straight through, that it wasn't a whole dream, but more so that he is affected by this case of people dreaming about him.
Yeah.
And if that was the case, I was good all the way up through 2/3 of the movie, until they kind of do this, like, it's not a bait and switch. It's just more, I felt it was jarring based on the flow of the whole movie. And that was the point at which we arrive when he starts to become hated, and the drastic turn in which people see him not only as this figure that just pops up in the dream, and they kind of see as an interesting man that somehow everybody sees in their dreams, to now, oh, he's turned into a nightmare. And all of a sudden these people in reality just subsequently turn on him and say, oh, well, you're a nightmare in reality. Yeah. And I just thought that was a little bit too forced. Maybe if the movie had breathed a little bit more into making that realistic and making that play out more, it sucks, because throughout most of this film, even the commercialization, when he first shows up at the Thoughts, and it's Michael Cera, and even the whole pitch they give him, I was on board. The moment they mentioned Sprite, I was laughing, and I'm like, it was hilarious, because I'm like, this is exactly what would happen. As soon as something like this happens on a mass scale, I mean, I thought a lot of it had overtones of being a commentary on social media.
Cancel culture.
Cancel culture. Yeah. Very much, I think, a lot of the points they made, those undertones that they made about cancel culture, or about the disease the hive mind is when it comes to social media, and how you can become demonized for something you didn't even do. Yeah. You just say it. And if you say it, you're immediately ostracized.
Yeah, and when you apologize, you're hated even more, because you tried to...
Well, because now you're selfishly gaining off of that, in so much as, are you doing it as genuine sincerity, or is it, I want more acclaim and more fame?
His really wasn't much of an apology. I mean, in a sense it was, but at the same time...
It was also him, he's the victim kind of thing.
And I will say, if there's one thing I can agree, and I think you all will agree with me on this, that was an absolute standout of the film, was his acting.
Oh, yeah.
Because Nicolas Cage no doubt deserved the Golden Globe nom. I think, depending on what else I've seen and what gets nominated, it wouldn't surprise me if there was an Oscar nom thrown around.
I don't know, because he got comedy or whatever nom. Like, he didn't get
an Oscar nom.
He didn't get,
they're calling it a dark comedy. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
they didn't. He didn't get like the drama nom, and those are usually the ones that foretell. Though I think that Paul Giamatti was nominated the same.
Holdovers.
Well, yeah, but for the same category as Nicolas Cage, because that's who won instead of Nicolas Cage. And he's been considered a serious contender for the Oscars, so maybe.
I mean, ultimately,
generally
I can just say
that category is kind of an afterthought.
Whether you loved the movie, or even you were so on it, or even if you hated it.
I don't think it's a bad movie.
Oh, no. Yeah. But it doesn't matter where you fall on the spectrum. If there's one thing that holds this movie together, I would argue it's Nicolas Cage.
Oh, absolutely.
And I would say that his acting throughout it is interesting enough that I want to follow this character along. And to me, there's never a moment where I feel like he distorts the character, or even the way it's written poorly. To me, I had more of an issue in terms of the plot structure and the story, the way the story unfolds in the third act. And I just didn't feel like of all the different ways in which the tree could have branched and taken you in different directions, I just felt like they took a little bit too on the nose, or a too pointed approach. I wanted it to be a little bit more interesting. Honestly, I thought, I don't want to spoil too much, but the scene where he, is trying to get things back, his life back in order.
Right. Yeah.
I wish it would have ended on a more positive note, and then that's where it cuts off to make you think, is it a dream or is it not?
Yeah.
Did he really get everything back, or was this just something of he can only live in his dreams now for what he
I
used
would
to
have
have?
liked.
yeah.
I don't want to spoil anything either, but there is like, it's still the same end, but just like a few minutes before, basically like when he approaches his wife, who's like tied up at a stake, and they reach out to hold hands. I feel like when they grabbed hands, it should have just cut there. Rather than go the little bit extra further it did. I honestly, for me, it wasn't really the plot or anything like that. I think like everything happened the way that I think logically it would, especially like with the people turning on him and stuff like that. I just thought some of it was a little, like I guess maybe I wanted a little bit nuance in certain areas, kind of like when you get to the very end and they have this device where they can basically beam ads into your brain. And it felt really jarring to me that they're like, everybody was just terrified of this guy because he's just invading their dreams, but that happened and it's completely gone now, and that's not a problem anymore. Now we have this device and everybody's okay with this device.
Yeah.
And they explain it as, like, they do give an explanation for why this device can't do what happened with him and why people are okay with it, but it was just so sudden and just so, let us just drop this piece of information right here because we need this device to come into play later on for his ending. And I was like,
and I
How
thought
many times have you been? And again, I'm not trying to defend the position that I think the whole movie was a dream, because I think you can definitely see it either way. But it's like, how many times have you had a dream where the things happening in the dream seem pretty coherent and seem pretty real, and then all of a sudden there's an alligator in the
that's
room,
true,
or there's something.
but I feel like that
It's
needs to
I felt
be
like-
displayed a little bit more.
I agree with
Right.
that. If they were
Yeah.
trying to go for that, if they wanted people to have that interpretation, I felt like that was definitely one of those things where it's like, yeah, I don't know how most people are going to get to that unless they really just sit and think about how wacky some of your
Right.
dreams go right before you wake up. Because it's really weird, but those things tend to happen right before you wake up is when the weirdest stuff. That's when you fall off a cliff and then wake up falling out of the bed. That's when aliens land and look through your window, and then all of a sudden you wake up and it's time to go to work. It's like,
That's
Yeah.
That would be my only criticism with that direction, is if that were the case, I wish there would have been a little bit more breadcrumbs that lead you
Yeah,
to that
sure.
conclusion.
No, yeah.
Because the only thing I didn't like about the dream device was not that it was impractical or that it couldn't have been a good plot device. It was that it was introduced so late in the film that I just felt like it was one more thing that, with only like 15 minutes left in the movie, that I just didn't. I felt like it was introduced so late that I didn't have enough chance to gravitate towards this being an actual realistic idea
Yeah.
in the film. Plus, even the part of him struggling with being an author, like, I wouldn't have minded. I told Keith, I said one route I wish it would have taken in a more tragic sense, because you could argue it ends on a tragic note. Again, I don't want to spoil too much, but I would say one thing in which I thought would be cool or an interesting way is if everybody had thought of him and they realistically told the story of how he was this kind of interesting figure that everybody was dreaming of, then he becomes a nightmare and everybody's scared of him, and then lo and behold, the moment that he's distraught and he's losing his family, all of a sudden now everybody forgets him.
yeah.
Because he's just gone here in one moment, gone in a flash, almost like, again, the kind of same cultural commentary they were displaying with the regards to social media and how instant you can rise and fall, and to the point of what that does to the human psyche. And even this person who was reaching out and wanting this legacy of his own and wanting to be remembered, and he was trying to be a social climber, and he couldn't be thankful for his own, just the family he had. And I thought that part of the story I thought was great. But then for them to take that 180, I almost wish they would have ended it in such a way that he's kind of forgotten by the masses, and because he's already lost everything because he gave into that as his claim to fame, he's then left with nothing but his dreams. And all he can do is dream of what he used to have, because he was truly, he wasn't lucky enough to realize how great his life was to begin with.
That's the aspect I did like, is that's what I guess I wanted more of, are those themes of him being this like this self-conscious person who has like low self-esteem. He doesn't view himself as heroic, and that's who his wife wants. And I love that. I loved the first half of the movie for that, and I felt like that's what kind of got lost in the second half, was because they did have to focus on people being afraid of him too. But I felt like it really muddied the themes of like him losing his family until you get back to the end when he realizes he has lost everything.
Yeah.
And there's just certain things narrative threads, like you said, I wished had been a little bit more throughout the movie. Like if the whole thing's a dream, that's fine. But the way that device does play off at the end is just out of nowhere. And you could say, well, that's because it is a dream. But at that point, it's like, well, then you could do anything with the plot if you're just going to say, well, it's a dream. So Deborah Messing could have just come out.
Yeah.
I mean,
that caught me off guard. That was great.
I agree it's a dream and anything can happen, but at the same time, with it being a movie, I feel like there should be some breadcrumbs, like a little bit there to lead to it, so that it doesn't that at least you get it.
I feel like there were I feel like there were little breadcrumbs, because even like we were talking about before the show, I feel like you see his passiveness at the beginning of the movie, and therefore everyone around him is also passive and not really caring about him. It's then he finds out a former colleague of his is using some of his ideas and not crediting him, but then that's when all of a sudden he becomes famous. And now he's going to, an ad agency, and they're wanting to do that. It's kind of like,
I think that stuff was definitely present.
Then when he, has this hilarious moment, an embarrassing moment in front of a young girl, that frustration and embarrassment as a man would lead you to being mad, and that anger translated into the guy that everybody was encountering later on in their dreams, where he's not just passive anymore. Now he's coming to kill you. So I felt like the dreams they were having were echoing what he was going through in real life, if it was real life. But see, that again just leads me to the scenario, like this fake scenario.
And honestly, I really don't, that being the divide, I'm okay with that being like different interpretation leading to the different result in the review. Because honestly, I mean, I would agree. I could argue that, I wish it would have had a little bit more evidence to support that.
Yeah.
But clearly, if there was enough there for
I guess then it wouldn't be so open.
Well, that, or I mean, obviously, if there was enough for you to see that in your viewing and you enjoyed it that much more. I mean, if there's one thing I'll say, 2.5, I'm not rating it in terms of it being a bad 2.5.
Oh, no.
It's definitely interesting in the sense that I would want to watch it again, especially, like I said, if let alone just for Nicolas Cage's performance. Because it is based on all the performances he's had in the last few years. This finally seems like one that landed on his desk that was like, oh, he's actually got to try.
Yeah.
And not just, oh, I'm just the Nicolas Cage character that everybody has turned up in pop culture.
The director has said that the role that Nicolas Cage is written into the movie, that the character itself it's supposed to also encompass a man's rise to fame, his moment in the spotlight, and then the transformation of being everybody being a fan, how people were coming to the window and trying to take pictures of him and all that, and then all of a sudden you're the butt of the joke. Now you're Nicolas Cage and you're a meme that everybody sends each other on their phones.
Yeah.
And things like that, and then you have a downward spiral.
And that's what kills me.
I mean, it's all like his career.
And if there's anything I can say, the most positive about the movie, it was I felt like a lot of the cultural undertones that they used throughout the story arc were spot on. I just felt like a lot of where it came to at the conclusion wasn't wrapped up real nice.
No, I can see that.
Honestly, I think that's a good difference of opinion that we have, here on the show. But ultimately, I don't think it makes this movie either exceptional or terrible. I think it's definitely in between.
I think it makes it exceptional for his career, because from a guy that has gone from Bangkok Dangerous to an amazing movie like The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent, and then this movie, like two movies that kind of echo your own life and your own career a little bit. Like I feel like he's. Everybody said, because even he said this isn't a comeback. He says that like a ton of times in the Massive Talent movie. He says it's not a comeback. I never went anywhere, and it's like that may be true, but these are two films that like kind of back to back that you've done that show they show that you are not just some actor in Chinese B movies. Like you still have this massive talent that needs to be. It's you know, you don't need to be out of the spotlight just yet. Like I feel like Nicolas Cage is a great actor. He's been in a lot of movies where he's, you know, emoted in ways that become the meme and become the laughing stock and even hated at times. But I feel like he's on a good trajectory to being one of these people. I would love to see him win an Oscar. I mean,
yes.
I would. He is one of those guys. It's like Robert Downey Jr. After his spiral in the 80s and early 90s. It's like you want to see him come back.
Didn't he win the Golden Globe for Oppenheimer? I may be mistaken on that. Not to give any weight to the Golden Globes.
I mean,
I'm not saying
but still
they're worth a merit. But no, you're right. I would agree. I would agree that
I wish he would do more movies like this to show what he's got.
He is showcased, no doubt.
Yes, RDJ won for Oppenheimer.
He did. Okay.
Yeah.
But no doubt. I would say that Nicolas Cage has shown he's got a lot more acting chops.
He's definitely a good actor.
So there it is. Our official review, 2.5 out of 4 stars. Sean giving it 3.5 out of 4 stars. Definitely, I think we can all agree it's worth checking out. Watch Dream Scenario. It's a very interesting movie.
It's still definitely one I feel like amongst the things that we keep seeing touted for Oscars and Golden Globes, it's still one of the better ones. I mean, even at 2.5, I mean, I would say how can a 2.5? I mean, I would say there's been movies nominated for Best Picture that didn't deserve 2 or 2.5. We've reviewed some of them.
They're kind of like the gems that have flown kind of under the radar
have
with
been
that
better than the Iron Claw.
Iron Claw, and then the Paul Giamatti.
The Holdovers. The Holdovers is getting recognition. That's the only one that has been.
But in theaters, that was a movie that was just that was one of those when you went to the movie theater, it was tucked away in the smallest screen they had because they knew nobody was going to watch it.
And to be fair, it's like Holdovers and even something like Dream Scenario. These are indie flicks. I mean, we've talked about it for countless years now about the indie flicks making a comeback, and not in terms of maybe in the glory days that they were in the early 2000s and turning heads, but no doubt as we continue to see big Hollywood blockbusters flounder, I mean, if you're looking for a more personal, intimate story, you're not only turning to the indie films, but those seem to be where the most interesting storytelling is being done.
They've definitely
still
been better than most of the mainstream films.
And they're not just and I think it's crazy because you could easily see that from the early 2000s and then it got popularized. You saw indie flicks come through that, you know, not only started to become a little bit more either one bloated because the budgets got bigger, they weren't really indie, or they went way too art house and were way overboard in terms of not trying to appeal to any mass audience. But I think we're starting to see a kind of happy medium. We're coming back into the full circle of having indie films that tell a more human-centric story that connect to the masses, but you just got to do a little digging and find it.
Yeah, the Holdovers was Focus Features, and then A24 produced Dream Scenario, and both of those are well-known indie.
Yeah. Well, I think A24 purchased Dream Scenario, so I'm not even sure that they really produced it. Yeah,
Square Peg was the
main production house,
but A24,
they bought and distributed it. So it's indie, and whereas I don't remember. I think the Holdovers was fully produced by Focus Features because that's I forgot his name. He is a little bit more known. The director, he also did Nebraska and Sideways. Alexander Payne.
Nebraska.
Yeah, there you go. Nebraska's good.
Yeah, that one is definitely. I think why it is more on the the Academy's radar is because it's Alexander Payne. So,
well, let's talk about some more Fallen from Grace. Let's talk about. Do we
have to?
I think so because we're just gonna keep beating that dead horse.
So I will say our 10-minute opening monologue was pretty bad, but it was better than the Golden Globes.
We entertained way better than that show would ever put on.
Nobody
our worst opening on a given show is better than what they put on Sunday night.
Gosh.
So let's roll that headline open and talk about the Golden Globes.
Go for it.
That's right, the Golden Turds.
The Golden Dopes.
Look, we've talked about that. I need to go back and pull clips because we have talked about this being the final year of the Golden Globes far too many times on this show to count.
Oh, this isn't the final year for the Golden Globes.
I don't know, man.
Their ratings went up.
Are you serious?
Yeah, they have 9.4. Last year they had 6.3. Well, this is a new station. They've never been on CBS before.
Yeah.
Oh, I
And-
thought. Oh, that's right, because it's been on NBC before. in the
NBC
past.
banned them. They came back after their year
Banned them.
on NBC because of their whatever controversial practices that were all BS, whatever.
They weren't diverse enough.
Yes.
Yeah.
So NBC said no. So they were off NBC for a year. They came back to NBC. The ratings were terrible. They got 6.3, so NBC dropped it completely. CBS picked it up this year, and they had CBS Plus it streamed on Paramount Plus at the same time.
There you go.
And
Combining the numbers.
not only was it 9.4, so it only gained about 3 million, but I also feel like there's a lot of other reasons for that.
It gained 3 million viewers?
Yeah, it went from 6.3 to 9.4.
That's huge.
That is huge, but
That's huge.
I think there's also bigger reasons for that. Not that because people inherently liked the show, because all the reviews for
I
it
think
were
it's
that was
because you had
god
major
awful.
NFL games that followed right before it.
You had major NFL games that led into it. What was nominated, it was universally more popular. Barbie, Oppenheimer, Taylor Swift's Era Tour.
Ugh.
Taylor Swift herself was there, which is
Yeah.
going to pull in viewers. I mean, I hate to say it, and people are like, oh, no, you're just going to say Swifties tuned. No, Swifties probably tuned in because that's how freaking dedicated they are.
Yeah.
They watch football games they know nothing
That's
about.
true.
Yep.
I'm just saying. So,
Well, and apparently
I feel like,
she's gained so much mad respect
Yes.
and street cred for sipping on her champagne because they were dogging her.
yeah,
The one
yeah.
little snide comment.
Yeah, I was like, let her have been there when Ricky Gervais hosted and see
Oh,
how. Yeah,
man.
I'm
that would've
sorry.
been great.
Joe Coy was a teddy
the
bear.
hell is Joe Coy?
He's actually been an up and coming stand up comedian, and I think that's why they got him because like they're like, oh, his popularity's rising amongst more so amongst the leftist crowd.
I've never heard of
And-
the
Same.
Yeah, I think they chose him because they knew he'd be safe. I think he just did whatever jokes they wrote for him.
Well, here's
and
the
it
thing.
does. It comes across as this milk
And
toast.
look, I'm all for. I understand. You just got the job 2 weeks beforehand.
yeah.
guy. Yeah.
But the fact that he had to at least, I think it was no less than 3 times,
Explain that.
explain that he had just got the job right before the show.
Yeah.
And
How
I'm just like,
unprofessional is
dude.
that?
Yeah.
But see, and this is what. Okay, so the article that we linked to, and it'll be in the description below after the show, is from Variety. And the reason I linked to this is because, look, we're no fans of elitist Hollywood on this show. Absolutely not. We come on here every single week and tear them apart. And I think it's funny that Variety
Yeah.
has a guest column, and they're writing about how the Globes just need to end. It's out of touch, and all they just go on a litany and a rampage about how.
But they
just,
don't actually touch on anything. Yeah, that.
Well, of course, all of it is either heavily opinion based or small little jabs that they can point to from past shows that didn't work or failed.
Yeah.
And yet, in the midst of all of this, their whole point of contention, they arrive at the same conclusion that I think we here on the show arrive at, which is, yeah, the Globes are out of touch and they need to end, but it's not because of the same reasons.
Yeah.
And that's where we fundamentally disagree, and this is where Hollywood gets it wrong. Because you have these Hollywood elites sitting there in that room throughout that you can tell are disgusted. They're rolling their eyes, they're oohing and awing at the jokes that are being made, and of course the host is standing up there and feels uncomfortable. And basically what it has become is Hollywood has had, like, they're waging this war. Sorry, the beer's getting to me.
Yeah.
They're waging this war on the Golden Globes, and it's clear they don't want to do the show. They don't look like they're happy to be there.
Nobody
they
wants
feel
to
like
do
it's
the
a
damn
chore.
show.
Every time that one of them do get made fun of, they can't even freaking take a joke.
Yeah.
Because they're so up on their high horse and stuck up. And it's like, no, the reason we enjoyed it when Ricky Gervais was there was because you were all like, oh my God, this is so offensive.
Because he put them in their
And
places. Yeah.
Ricky Gervais was speaking on behalf of the common man.
And that's exactly what they did. They went the exact opposite of Ricky Gervais because I did look him up just to see what all he had done. So he got his start as a frequel panelist on the Chelsea Lately Show on E.
Oh, joy.
Yeah. And then he's had 6 stand-up specials on Netflix. So yeah, he's definitely, they went with the safest person they know that's popular amongst a specific crowd, not amongst, I would say, mass audiences, just,
Yeah.
if you're a fan of E, which is, I would imagine, not very large.
Think about how the guy felt. I mean, it says one article I read said they went to 10 other people before they came to him.
Oh, Lord.
Yep.
And so it's like,
So, yeah, he wasn't even their first choice. Yeah, they couldn't get nobody.
You're the 11th person that they came to, and you're an up and coming comedians, so you need to take whatever gigs you can get. I'm sure it paid well. It's the Golden Globes. They probably throw money away like it's, candy.
And it's still
But it's
went
like,
up in
think
ratings.
about how that would make you feel when you're up there.
Well-
And then the audience gives you the crap that they were giving him for the bad jokes.
Yeah.
But I feel like if that was a Chappelle, I just watched Chappelle's special, by the way. That was
Yep,
amazing.
it was.
But it's
So they
like
would
if you
never
were
have
if you were Chappelle or Chris Rock or anybody else for that matter, it's like at a certain point you've got to learn to take the booze and the that's not, you've got to be professional and go on with the show. You can't break character on stage and just be like, oh, shut up, I didn't even write half these jokes. Okay, I didn't get this gig until 10 days ago. Like, he genuinely got mad.
That was the difference.
And I'm like,
the difference between
that's
him
very
and Ricky
unprofessional.
Gervais doing it was Ricky Gervais had not only been hired,
he took
knew
pleasure in
he
them being
took
pissed.
pleasure in the fact that he was about to roast everybody in that room. And the thing is this guy almost took it as a, hey, I'm just gonna some of this is mine. It's the parts you're laughing at, but the other parts are the things they wrote.
We're best friends. Don't be mad at me.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. It's like his whole claim to fame was to try to win over the approval of people in that room. And I'm like, no, that's the exact opposite.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to watch this show. I mean, even 9 million in the grand scheme of things is abysmal in terms of viewership.
And that's why
but
I say
to
I don't think
gain
this
3
is...
million
that's huge.
from the previous is huge.
That's why I said this isn't going to be the last year. It's like CBS will definitely pick them up again because they did have such a huge boon. Though, and again, I know people are like, oh, now you're just making excuses and not willing to give them credit for the 3 million. It's like, no, I'll give them some credit. But again, I think there's a lot of factors in that because it did switch stations. It went from NBC to CBS. You did have a lot of lead into it because I remember every football game I watched, there was a freaking ad. Golden Globes come on this such and such day. Every NFL game I saw had an ad from like if it was on a game on CBS because CBS was marketing it, which is something NBC stopped doing because NBC lost faith in it, rightfully so. And I think CBS is going to find out that I don't think it's going to be. I think we raised this year. I don't see it going to be a constant rise, especially with how horrible this show was and nobody liking it.
After reading some of this, I'm starting to think that they literally made up the Box Office Achievement Award
for Barbie
just to give it. Well, it says that Taylor Swift
Yes, they did it just to get
got
her there.
Nomination for cinematic and box
Oh,
office.
yes,
achievement.
yes.
Well,
I'm like, they made that up to get her
Yeah, just to
there
get
so
her
they
there.
could get more views.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, so much of it was a ploy to get people. I mean, even all the stars that were there, it's like they were simply brought in just so all it is to try to showcase, oh, look, it's your favorite Hollywood stars in one room on one evening. And yeah, you can get it on Oscar night, but even they will say one part I agree with the Variety article was that they're saying the reason the Gold Globes used to be the event you tuned into in the past was because it was kind of unhinged and people were getting drunk and they were kind of acting like, not your normal typical snobbish elites.
Yeah.
The problem is that not only have we caught on to that act in the past, but even they raise, they talk about the golden years when Amy Poehler and Tina Fey, and I'm like,
those were the golden
sucked.
years. That was when it was going
Sucked.
downhill.
Oh, absolutely,
that
it was
the start of the decline.
But see, they're part of the elect.
Yeah.
They're part of the Hollywood elite that everybody loves. And again, as long as you have a woman or somebody of a minority status up there, then yeah, you're going to get all the praise and it's going to get heaped on you. You're going to get every benefit of the doubt because this is the game Hollywood plays. And the first thing they're going to draw any kind of ire at is the Hollywood Foreign Press. And of course, they've committed the mortal sin of not fitting in with the DEI in the past. And to the point of they're going to have to get down on the ground and grovel to even getting so much as a look in their direction, let alone a standing ovation from these people.
Yeah.
Because look, at the end of the day, they don't want to be there. Nobody wants to watch from home. Nobody wants to watch all of these millionaires sitting in a room and accepting a statuette. I mean, look, if you go on YouTube right now and look up Ricky Gervais's speech, there's a reason it's been watched millions of times.
Oh, yeah.
And I can guarantee you it is
Nobody's
the most
watching
watched.
Joe Coy's speech. Well, they might to make fun of it.
They are because it's the worst 10-minute monologue anybody's ever. I mean, I shared the video.
But it will this week, but it won't be remembered.
Yeah. It's going to get a lot of views up front for everybody laughing at how bad it is. But yeah, over time, people are still going to continue watching Gervais's speech, and eventually they're just going to forget all about Coy's speech.
So, I mean, I hate to say, I was going to ask the final ultimatum. Do we think this is truly the end of the Globes?
Not yet.
I don't. I mean,
They're still
I don't know why they're still doing it.
I agree, but it's not. There'll be one next year.
That's what I mean. It's they can't help themselves. It's the same thing with the Academy Awards.
When you raise $3
when's the
billion,
last
It's like a
one?
drug addiction.
It is. They
just-
cannot be without the acknowledgement.
But now they feel justified because their ratings went up 3 million. I mean,
yeah.
So now they're going to be like, well, see, and it's going to be until they flop
and
again.
Taylor Swift will do another tour that's in movie theaters next year,
But
and
see,
it'll be on the Golden Globes too.
And that's on the other end of things. Is they're talking about because of the little joke he made,
Mm-hmm.
and people either coming to her defense or being mad at those who are happy that Joe Coy made the joke.
Mm-hmm.
But the fact is that Taylor Swift doing her little swig of champagne to kind of showcase like
That's
she
all
didn't
they
have a
needed.
smile, she
Yeah.
didn't laugh. No, they took it as not only will she not be coming back because she feels like she was coaxed into being there because of the popularity award of category
yeah.
of best box office smash, whatever
No,
it
it's
is.
best cinematic achievements.
Achievement, yeah.
They
Just
basically
the
did that.
same thing that they're trying to do at the Oscars.
Yes.
Just to give a backhanded
after the
compliment
Dark
to the
Knight-
big box office.
Basically, yeah.
Yep.
After the controversy of the Dark Knight, now they're basically trying to say
no,
whatever.
I would say even after like Top Gun Maverick.
Yeah, that too. I was just saying it's a compounding thing where so many of these movies, because that's what happened with Barbie being so huge, because that's what won it this year, which was predictable. It was going to be Barbie,
But it's going to get nominated
Eras.
for Best Picture.
It will. But I'm just saying that's why it won, because they can have their cake and eat it too. That's a movie that plays into all the things they want a Best Picture winner to be as far as agenda and all that goes. But it's also insanely popular with audiences. So now we can have our cake and eat it too.
I like how he said that. He's just like, it's also
Yeah,
insanely
that's what I'm
popular
saying.
with audiences.
That's how Hollywood thinks.
Did it say
They're
that?
like, that's
Like,
Hollywood.
You gotta go see Barbie. It's
It's
so
like
good.
it's a no-brainer. Of course, you have to nominate it Best Picture because
Yeah.
it fits all the check marks.
Yeah.
Well, and I still just have a hard time believing that no matter what ends up coming out this year, if they don't have the same kind of support, whether it's airing on CBS, whether it's Taylor Swift showing up in the audience, we already know that the remainder of this year does not bode well as far as the movies coming out. We've already been told by the Hollywood elites that this year's not going to be impressive by any means because of the strikes. With all that being said, I do see it being around next
I think it'll
year.
limp on 2 years.
2 more years.
Because I think it'll come out next year like normal after like for this year's movies. And if it flops next year, CBS just took them on. They might be like, well, it's your first dip down, so we'll give you another chance. And then I think if it dips again, then CBS will be like, okay, no, we're out too. So I'll give them 2 more. That this year, like the show for this year, and then 2025.
Okay. What about you? Oh, no, actually, I think you mean that backwards. 2025 and then 2026.
No, but
We just had the
2024.
Golden Globes.
Yeah, we
for
just had
23 and
2024.
No, for not the 2024 Golden Globes. I mean the 25 Golden Globes for the year of 24.
Right, but then do you mean it's going to have another one after that?
Yeah.
So it's 2026.
Okay, when the show airs, yes.
Yes.
But that's not what I was meaning when I said that.
That's what I meant,
Yeah,
though.
yeah.
For the 2025
the
season, or
2024
25
season and the
year.
25 season,
Gotcha.
24 and
Yeah.
25, those years.
Sean,
I
what
just
about
don't.
you?
I don't think they're going to be able to have a Golden Globes during a civil war. So I just don't see it happening.
They would.
That's true. What happens? What happens in November?
That's true.
I mean, I put Golden Globes
Yeah.
up there with the Derby.
Yeah.
I mean, right there, they're
Yeah.
just synonymous. You need to have them.
Yeah.
But they'll happen.
They may not have the Golden Globes during a Civil War, but they will definitely have Oscars during
Yeah.
the Civil
Yeah.
War.
Oh,
They'll
well,
be
no.
damned
They
if
have-
some from Yankees.
Oh no! The Golden Globes
Yeah.
will have to happen, and every major Hollywood elitist, jerk off session will have to happen.
We have to win this war.
Right, because they have to get up there and browbeat.
Yeah.
They have to have their bully pulpit.
These
So they will
evil-
not pass up an
These
opportunity to get
evil,
on national
deplorable
television.
people.
That's right.
It's like I dedicate this to all the blue states out there.
You keep fighting the good
Keep
fight.
fighting the good fight. No, take that off of there. We're not patriotic.
Yeah, exactly. They'll have their own flag up there.
They will.
Yeah, it'll be pink and blue.
It'll be the trans flag, no
that's
doubt.
true.
But no, I will say I don't think I think he's kind of on the right. I honestly think it'll go one more year. I'm going to say one more year. And the reason is because not only do I think it will dip next
So you
year,
think 25 will be the end of it?
I think next year's the last show.
Okay.
Wow.
Because I honestly thought this year would be it, but the fact that you told me it went up in viewership
Yeah.
tells me that, oh, yeah, they'll keep it.
Yeah.
The fact that it even remotely went up, and they're going to try to continue to convince. Because here's the thing. Nobody in Hollywood supports it.
No.
And like I said, yes, we're both coming at it from different ends of the spectrum in terms of your Joe Schmoes and your Hollywood elites. But if nobody wants it, not even us down here,
It's
and
true.
they don't,
It's
why
true.
the hell would it continue?
Why are you still making something nobody wants to produce?
Do you think they
Nobody.
really don't want it though, or do you think they're pretending not
the
to want
Hollywood
it?
foreign press wants it. I think
Yeah,
Hollywood themselves does not
I'm just thinking
want it.
these actors and stuff, like that's what they do. They jump on bandwagons, and when they hear, oh, we've read so many things, we've heard so many times that we're just out of touch with everybody, so let's just not like the Golden Globes or the Oscars. Let's act like we don't like it so that we look like we're more in touch with.
There could be a little bit of that going on. I wouldn't be surprised, or I mean, anytime they can jump on the bandwagon to act like
when else
they're
are they going to have the soapbox to stand on and
the
preach?
Oscars.
That's what I mean.
mean, you can damn near,
I'm saying the Golden Globes and the Oscars.
Hell,
I
you
feel like
can
they go hand in hand.
Damn
but-
near slap somebody and get away with
Well,
it.
that's what I'm
on the
saying. We
Oscars.
thought that was going to be the last year, but then the slap happened, and people replayed
No.
that millions of times. So it's like, yeah, we got to do it again.
The Oscars have such a larger status in terms of. I'm not saying they're good. I mean, they haven't been relevant, I think, for the last 10 years.
Yeah.
But they have such a higher acclaim, I think, in the Academy. It's Hollywood's child in terms of not only was it the inception of
that. Yeah, it's the prestige.
Yes, it's the
Yeah,
prestige
of their
that-
art.
th-
Yeah, of
and
their art
they
form.
all hold that in higher acclaim than the Golden Globes, which by its very nature, only in the last 5 years has become
I get that.
the bane of their existence.
You wouldn't paint something and then not want it in an art gallery.
Right.
Right.
And,
That's
and
their
to
art
me,
gallery.
the Academy Awards is still their claim to fame.
Yep.
It is the top honors of the. And honestly, look, anybody who's in film would argue that. And for the technical categories, I think there's some merit there. It's only become in the subjective nature of the, whether it's acting or even in
The
some of
bigger
the more,
categories now seem to be less about actual
They're politicized.
talent. Yes,
It's no secret. The same way Hollywood Foreign Press has become
Yep.
politicized. All the changes they've made have only come after the ire of the Me Too movement, of the BLM riots back in 2020. All of these social changes that they have made have been in direct correlation with trying to appease the Hollywood elites, because that's the only way they can maintain relevancy. It's like saying, well, we don't really need the American movie market. We just have to have China because China is such a huge market. Okay, yeah, China's growing, and China's huge in terms of the movie market. And we've seen China become the make it or break it when it comes to certain Hollywood blockbusters. If it fails over there, it flops.
Yeah, except Maverick.
But it mainly flops if it doesn't succeed here too. It's like both are needed because there's both giant markets in play here. But the Hollywood Foreign Press is the only one that's bending over backwards to Hollywood to try to kiss their ass and make it seem like they're still relevant. And Hollywood's just being like, yeah, keep kissing it, not good enough, not good enough. And it's never going to be. Because we already know how the Me Too era ends up. We already know how the BLM era ends up. We already know that. I mean, look, this is the essence of what is infecting the hive mind at Disney and all of these other corporations that have gone woke. They're all so steeped in wokeness, they cannot, they have to bite off their nose to spite their face. They have to. Because they can't give up now and throw the towel and say, well, it's not working. We don't believe in this anymore. It's a deeply held religious cult-like belief. And if you are in that circle, you have to believe these things. Now, granted, I'm with you, Sean. I think you're going to have the stray people who either, one, break free of it altogether and just say, I don't care about none of this nonsense. It's all a bunch of malarkey anyway. We have way too many award shows. It's way too... We're always just circle jerking around. It's ridiculous. Or you have those others who jump on the bandwagon of, oh, we're pretending like we're with the common man and we don't like this either. They'll find all these different angles because they all arrive at the same point, which is to say, okay, none of us like the Golden Globes. We don't want it to go on. We do have way too many award shows as it is to pat ourselves on the back. So what's the point in keeping it going?
Yeah.
Especially if we're going to uphold the idea that the Oscars is this main achievement. This is what we're all vying for.
I mean, how many do you... Because, every freaking guild has their own show. So, from SAG,
SAG,
the Directors Guild, Actors Guild, or I already mentioned that, Writers, every union has their own show, and then you have the BAFTAs, which is touted as basically second to the Oscars. Then you have Critics Awards and People's Choice Awards, and at this point, it's kind of like the Golden Globes don't cover anything that's not covered by every other award ceremony that's already out there.
Right.
And then, of course, Oscars being like the pinnacle of achievement that you
Super
can
Bowl.
win. Yeah.
It's the Super Bowl for movies.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's like after that, it's like, where does the Golden Globes land? Because I mean, they're irrelevant compared to every other award show that's already out there, specifically awarding like each part of the Hollywood production.
It was almost like they wanted to be, I think, when they started, because they have a legacy. I mean, they've been around, what, 70 plus years?
I felt like they tried to build and be...
I can't remember. What's the number that they're on? I'm forgetting. I think they're in the
I'm gonna pull
70s.
it up. Hold on.
But I think, in essence, what it used to be was that the Golden Globes was kind of like, oh, we're the Oscars, but when you encounter all of the kind of world,
81st.
it's the 81st.
wow.
Yeah.
So 81 years is not anything to just shake, shake your finger at.
I get that.
But I think what it was is I think they started out almost in a way of saying, okay, we're the foreign Oscars. Not in the BAFTAs. The BAFTAs are the British
they used
Oscars.
to nominate more than just Hollywood films, though. That's
Right.
basically what they've become.
But then I think slowly over time, it was how do we make this departure to make ourselves different? How are we going to differentiate ourselves from these other award categories or other shows and ceremonies?
Mm-hmm.
And then it became more about the cavalier, loosey-goosey. Okay, we're just going to we're going to get up here and it's going to be Hollywood on champagne all night, getting drunk, getting up here and you don't know what you're going to get. And it was like that for a few, 20 years or so.
Mm-hmm.
And then all of a sudden it's kind of taken a downward turn because it's like, oh, well, now the Hollywood elites are the woke. They're the wokeness. They're the ones that are constantly out there beating their drum and parading around the world to share the Enlightenment. And so if the Hollywood Foreign Press isn't willing to jump on the bandwagon or it's too late for them, well, then bye-bye. We don't need you anymore. And so they're throwing them out to the wind. And honestly, the point is most of these award shows are self-centered.
Oh, yeah.
Narcissistic.
I mean,
self-indulgent.
Nobody really watches any of even the Oscars, which might still get the highest ratings out of all the award shows just because of the prestige.
I wouldn't even bet
It's
on that. I don't know. I'd have to look.
Yeah, I'd say that's why I said might, because I'm not sure. But I mean, even the Oscars aren't really watched the way they used to be. It's like, yeah, maybe they might still perform better than any other awards show.
They'll
But
get more views this year if they feature Taylor Swift's movie.
I don't think there's
Sorry, it's not a movie.
I don't think there's a
They can come up with a new category
unless
for
they
that.
come up with. But
Maybe
I think they've
the
already
best
ruled that one out.
documentary.
'Cause somebody that one I
Throw her
think
in
they
there.
could do. 'Cause
Oh wow, yeah, that's
there was somebody because they were arguing about that because Swiftie fans wanted and they had said that no, it couldn't be nominated for best original picture, but the documentary maybe they could do. That wouldn't surprise me.
I think it's just to kind of go back to your point though, Keith. I think you're right. I think the days are long gone. I mean, whether you talk about social media and its impact and the internet and everything, but the days are long gone that there's these bastion of cultural crusaders or even cultural. I mean, it used to be that even if you rolled your eyes at a lot of Hollywood, there was something that you could see as part of the entertainment aspect. You could turn on the Oscars because it was something that was it was like, not in the same vein, but it was like watching your favorite sitcom. It was like watching a football game.
It was fun.
It was something that everybody could tune into because it was live. It was at a specific time, and it was something it was the water cooler talk you'd have the next day at work.
Well, and used to the movies that were nominated were not only were they the best, but they were still popular. It's
True.
like Forrest Gump was a huge movie. Saving Private Ryan was a huge movie. Return of the King was a huge movie. It's like
Movies you actually saw in theaters were nominated.
And people actually loved the movies. They tuned in. They actually still loved the actors and the people making the movies. People still related to them. But even Sean had mentioned, I think even last year, talking about we see them too much now. It's like I don't need to tune into
that's
Oscars
true.
to see what Billy Crystal or Whoopi Goldberg or whoever's up to. It's like because now it's like I don't need to tune into Oscars to see what Jimmy Kimmel's up to. I know he's on his show whining about Aaron Rodgers. It's like it's like I don't need to watch the Oscars this year to hear him bitch more about how Aaron Rodgers is threatening.
They're on social media.
Oh, he went on a
posting
tirade
something
about
every
how
day.
even his mailman is getting questions from people about Aaron Rodgers and how he's in. I'm like, your mailman's not in damn danger because of what Aaron Rodgers said.
Jimmy
Shut
Kimmel.
up.
bored.
Yeah.
Jimmy Kimmel is such a wuss.
He's like, everybody, my wife
It's a thing
wife
he
has
used to
heard
be
about it.
on
My
the
kids
Man
have heard
Show.
about it.
It's like
Yeah.
he needs to turn his man card in.
He's done blackface. We already know the dude is a weasel. He's a little pansy.
He used to
He
bounce
needs
on a trampoline with the juggies.
That's right,
And now
yes.
he's a puss.
But that's my point. That people no longer respect the people at the Oscars. They no longer need to catch up on what the celebrities are up to because they never shut up and get out of our faces now anyway.
Has Jimmy
and no
Kimmel-
one cares about the movies.
Has Jimmy Kimmel transitioned yet?
Not
Has
yet.
he become
Not
a
yet.
woman?
Yet.
Okay, I didn't know. I didn't know if he
No,
went
I mean
through
his
with the-
masculinity's going out the window, so that's probably the next
I just
step.
didn't know if he committed to the surgery yet.
No,
He might as well
no.
get that thing tucked. I mean, might as well. He's already fitting the bill anyway. Yeah, I mean, look, Hollywood's been out of touch for
Yeah.
years. There's been nothing more apparent than social media to make that clear.
Well,
or
are we
clear.
going to go to the second headline?
We are, because this
that
is actually
Hollywood in touch.
And here's the thing. This is what I think is interesting. You talk about classic Hollywood and the unspoken, or the ones who actually started out in the biz truly entertaining, having to eat scraps at the table just to get their moment and their shot at fame, and then entertaining millions from the multiple roles that they have graced the screen with over the years. We're talking about Dan Aykroyd's drinking docuseries that is actually premiering on Fox Nation.
Yeah.
He just talked about it on the Fox network, and it's not a long series. It's only a short
6 episodes.
It's
six-part
6 episodes
series.
because each episode is a different, basically, drink.
and each one has a different I would argue comedian from like the SNL era.
They feature except for George Wendt,
right.
which makes sense because he's beer. Cheers makes sense.
Yeah.
All right.
Because it's Jim Belushi, John Lovitz, Kevin Nealon, and George Wendt, along with Dan Aykroyd, and they're examining the origin and cultural impact of beer, wine, spirits, coffee, tea, and soda. So I mean,
Wow.
which is
It's
which is really
basically
cool.
like how each drink shaped the culture
Yeah.
at the time that they were introduced.
Do
So
we
it's
have
kinda cool.
Do we have a heads up on whose each one is?
Well, there's only 4 of them in 6 episodes, so my imagining is I think they're all kind of just throughout.
Well, there should be 5 because you have Belushi, Nealon, Aykroyd,
Aykroyd
Wendt,
makes
and
5,
Dan,
yeah.
and
Someone's not in this.
Lovitz.
Someone's not in. John Lovitz.
John
isn't
Lovett's
this
not in the picture.
Okay, I was looking at So there's 5, but I imagine with 6 drinks, unless they're all
going
to
to
do
stay.
one,
I think they all in the preview. They're all sitting around
Discussing.
talking about each one.
Yeah.
like not individually. They all talk about coffee. They all talk about beer.
Oh, that's
that
cool.
makes sense
Okay.
to me.
Yeah, because it's like Wendt. He said the only reason I'm on here is because I'm good at sitting at a bar.
Yeah,
So he made that joke. So
because
it's-
he's the only one not from SNL.
yeah. Everybody else is at Saturday Night Live.
I'm very intrigued. I definitely want to watch it. Miranda actually brought this to my attention because she watches a docuseries about Jim Belushi. He owns like a weed plantation and sell. Yeah, he grows.
Like, is it hemp or is it weed?
No, it's weed.
No, it's weed.
Oh, wow.
It's he grows and sells like
Colorado?
and distribute. No, I think it's in California. It might
Okay.
be Colorado. I don't know. But Dan Aykroyd's throughout the series as well because Dan Aykroyd's like his lead beneficiary or whatever. He's like the one who gave him his loan to
Dan
get started.
Aykroyd
and-
started his own vodka.
Yes.
called Crystal Head.
Yeah,
vodka
he has his own vodka
after the
but
Crystal Skull.
He's in the
Yeah.
he's in the documentary with Jim Belushi for the weed because he funds basically. He's the one that gave him the loan to start the company basically. So
I mean, that business has got to be a booming right now.
Yeah.
I mean, no doubt.
I mean,
Yeah.
one of the coolest things that stands out to me about this is where the show is airing. That it's airing on Fox Nation, which is a paid subscription service of Fox News.
Yep.
And it's like you've got people like Belushi and I would say all of them are at one time were part of the Hollywood elite
That's
or
true.
the
Yeah.
comedic from SNL.
and
who-
I would argue not all of them are conservative. Like,
Exactly,
I'm sure John Lovitz
yes.
isn't, but
no,
he's
but
still
it's,
working
it's
with
one
them.
of
Yeah.
those things
Actually,
where
John
it's like
Lovitz is.
Oh, is
pretty-
he?
he's pretty
yeah, him and
conservative.
Rob Schneider are
Wow.
both.
I didn't know
Rob
that.
Schneider is
I
big time.
Oh, I knew Rob Schneider, but I didn't think John Lovitz.
and surprisingly, when you hear Dan Aykroyd, when they interviewed him today on Fox and Friends,
Yeah.
and talking about the show and talking about UFOs and crystal skulls and all
Yeah.
kinds of weird stuff. But it's like, yeah, you would nowadays the stars wouldn't touch Fox News with a 50-foot
Oh no,
pole,
they
right.
would go near it.
but these guys who may be, maybe liberal or more moderate, they're not like that. They can play both sides of the thing, and I like that about it. You've got somebody that's in Ghostbusters and Coneheads and
I would say
and
these
other
are
great
not
movies.
lightweights.
No,
these
not
are
at all.
people that are household names,
and they're not people that are reaching out to try to find work. It'd be easy for people on the left to be like, oh, well, Dan Aykroyd's been out of work. He'll take whatever he can get.
Yeah,
that's
it's like,
true.
no, I'm sorry, dude. He's in the Ghostbusters, which was great, and he's going to be in the next Ghostbusters movie. It's like he's got a vodka company, and he's paying for people's weed. You got he's not searching for work. He sought this out, and it's I don't read books a lot, so it's based on a book. The what's it called? History of the World in 6 Glasses. That's a book. So the whole series is based on some book. So,
to me,
but it's cool that they're coming to
I'm
Fox.
with you, Sean. I think what to me strikes me the most interesting is each one of these people were someone that you could have watched back. I think about it even with the late great Norm Macdonald.
Yes.
And you brought up the Chappelle Show earlier, and it's great the way he opens that special, and even talking about Norm. And it's like these are people who I feel like are ostracized now, not because they changed their political views, but as we've seen culturally, the Overton window has shifted in the last several years and dramatically gotten more, stricter in terms of what is and isn't accepted as part of a cultural norm. And you see these people who used to just show up and make you laugh on a Saturday night or part of a sitcom like Cheers. And yet that used to be the only job they were known for, and they were proud of it because that was just something that you a little bit of the world that you were led into through their eyes and through their experience and through the characters they played on TV, but it was how they got to showcase that gift to the world and let you come into your home and entertain you. And yet now it seems to be so far removed from the equation. Entertainment is no longer part of the spectrum.
Mm-hmm.
Now it's all about wokeness and this infestation of making sure that every single aspect of entertainment is just oozing with social political correctness and all of these different ways in which we're supposed to be socially engineered to be corrected for all the wrong think and wrong speak. And it's like if there's one area that has stood defiant throughout this crazy time that we're living in, it is comedians. And thank God they have held the line in terms of not only and look, Ricky Gervais' special Armageddon. It's no question that Ricky Gervais is an atheist.
Yep.
He's an outspoken atheist, and he says a lot of things that I disagree with in terms of God. But he also says a lot of things in terms of logical stuff in common day sense that is hilarious.
Another example, not a conservative man, but I would argue someone more classically liberal.
Yes.
Same like I talked about Piers
someone
Morgan.
That I can sit down and actually have a conversation with, who's not going to look me in the face, point the finger at me, shake it, and say, you're evil. And I think so much of our world not only needs that right now, but it also only comes from one side of the spectrum. You only have that awful disease of wanting to get rid of opposition, being harbored on one side.
This idea of that the other side is absolutely evil and needs to just be done away with, and it's
right.
like that's not.
You don't have an
healthy.
Opportunity to agree to disagree. You don't have an opportunity to even entertain that person might be interesting, because heaven forbid you're falling for it now and you're in with the you're now in the cult. And it's like, no, it's the other way around. The cult is the one saying that nobody else should have their own opinion. You better fall in line or else.
Well, it's a moral lie of saying, well, we stand for these freedoms, and if they're against that, well, then that means they don't want you to have those freedoms. They want you so therefore they're evil. And it's like, no, and that it has nothing to do with that. There's certain ideals
we should
that we
encroach
don't
on those freedoms.
Yeah. There's certain ideals that we don't agree on certain things being moral or not. And that's the argument, is you want to act like, no, we're just trying to encroach on people's freedoms, as you just said, or try to shut down people and make sure that they're miserable and unhappy. You're not allowed to do this, you're not allowed to do that. When really it's also a moral quandary for us. It's not just that we're bigoted and conservatives hate homosexuals, or conservatives are just evil and want you to suffer and force you to have a baby rather than abortion. Those are moral arguments from a conservative's point. It's not this idea of like, we just hate you and want you to be miserable and not happy.
No, absolutely. And the fact that those used to be conversations that could be had, and agreeing to disagree, and you could get up and walk away from the table. And that
it wasn't even really a conversation. It was
true
common
too.
sense. I knew that person didn't feel that way about me, because that would be ridiculous.
That's true
now
too.
The ridiculous is reality, and it is not common sense anymore. You do have to have that conversation now, which is just itself ridiculous.
And that goes back to the point I think you made about this even being on Fox Nation. Is I think what's surprising is you're seeing, whether it's Fox Nation, whether it's X, whether it's all of these Rumble, these independent platforms that are they're rising above the fray and becoming more popular, simply because all their initiative is to offer a platform for not only everybody to have the equal weight in speaking, but in ultimately saying the best ideas will win. And that has always been the framework of freedom of speech. The idea.
I'm just gonna say too. Oh, I'm sorry. Finish up. I thought you were finished.
Ultimately, just that's always been the one unique American belief that brought us together, was that let the chips fall where they may. We may meet in the middle. We may agree to disagree and walk away, or it may be not a point of contention at all because I don't really care.
Yeah.
And honestly, that's what I think comedians just doing that in terms of the woke crusaders who've come out and tried to politically bash them to fit them into certain boxes, and they've all said, screw you. Comedy is about being on the edge. It's about being offensive, because if you can laugh at something, you can actually approach the subject matter without acting like it's taboo. And frankly, I think it's enlightening to see some of these older classic actors who you could, like you said, you could easily fit them in the box of, well, what have they done recently? What's really relevant that they've committed to? It's like, hey, these are the guys who actually have a platform and a legacy to stand
the way,
behind.
And they do have a legacy. And it is funny because I noticed like there are a lot of people online that said there's this strange trend that they're starting to notice of actors from the 70s and 80s from SNL, people who I would say are probably more classically
Chevy
liberal.
Chase even.
Well, I don't know about
who's way
him.
more lefty, but he's starting to come around.
Well, because John Lovitz was registered Democrat, but he has been very vocal against because I was looking at that, like they're talking about how a lot of them, Adam Sandler had donated to Giuliani. Rob Schneider obviously has been very vocal, but then they mentioned quite a few in here that people like the alarmed of leftist stuff. These older SNL guys are actually, they're kind of leaning conservative, even if they don't claim to be conservative.
Well,
and it's like maybe they realize
now you can't be left of center or moderate. You have to be crazy left.
Yeah.
Yes.
And if you're not that, then you must be MAGA
and so
extremists.
You're right.
It's like it's black and white. There is no.
But I would argue that's
gray.
also driving them towards the right side, because they realize it's like, well, this is the side that's rational and lets us have a conversation.
That's exactly what Rob Schneider said. He's been on Gutfeld. Rob Schneider's been on Gutfeld's show 3 or 4 times that I've watched him, and that's exactly what he says. That it was so far that he's just like, I can't be that far left. Like it's not in my blood.
Well,
like,
it used to be that even
push me the other way.
Within common sense, like you said, Sean, woke you up and said, look, I may disagree on a lot of different issues. I may even think we're heading in a different direction than this other side of the political spectrum, whatever it is.
Right.
But there was still some kind of common sense and commonality amongst your common man.
Class.
And we just don't have that anymore.
Mm-hmm.
The divide has become so deep and thick in this country of either left versus right that ultimately you have to land in one of those two camps.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, one, I think, continues to not only consume and eat itself alive, but continually creates reasons why they're not only not expanding, they're shrinking, because they are so restrictive and because their ideals are so outlandish and so illogical and so against reality that you have to live in some kind of fantasy world that it just isn't practical. And anybody with common sense finally snaps out of it and says, this isn't freedom. This is a cult.
Yeah.
And I have to, snap, get out of this.
Drinking, just kind of back on the show, like drinking, and like we've watched a thing about cigar smokers and how it doesn't matter what your opinions are and your political affiliation and your ideals. Like I think it's cool that there are still some things that people like that can come together around.
Well, like cigars.
Like cigars or like sitting down. Like these guys might not be on the same page ideologically, but when they sit down and have a beer together and talk and joke and let their comedy come out, I think that's going to make for a good show. It's also interesting, the guy that wrote the book, Tom Standage, he also wrote An Edible History of Humanity, A Brief History of Motion, which I think Jay Leno needs to do that. They need to do a docuseries with Jay Leno and let him do this book. There's another one that sounds interesting, The Victorian Internet, the remarkable story from the telegraph to the online pioneers. Like, just interesting sounding books. I don't read a lot of books, but I might have to check some of these out.
They're all focused on these huge revolutions within like human nature.
And, how
we
it
as
shapes
a culture
human
and
nature.
society
Yeah, how it shapes
have advanced
culture
technologically. And it's like, or even how the idea of the drink has morphed from, I mean, the fact that, it used to be that beer was the preferred drink when the water was so diluted or polluted that you couldn't drink it. It was like you needed to have beer. And it was like that was the common drink so long ago. I mean, there's evidence for why these things aren't just like, I sat down and had this tasty beverages. Of course, there's vices all over that we enjoy, which we're about to move on to our vices topic.
Yeah.
But it's interesting that one thing I like about this is that, yes, it takes something that is so central to just the human experience that you can extrapolate it and see how it fits all different types of cultures and, societies. And yet it's this one common thread and narrative that connects us that, it takes your mind off of the monotony and the world, the world's craziness, that it actually brings you, for once, I think what we need more of, if anything today, is it brings you back to something that brings us and connects us all together.
Yeah.
So I'm looking forward to it. I'm definitely going to check it out.
Comedians in cars drinking coffee.
Yeah.
It's Jerry Seinfeld's show on Netflix. Another good example of that, where you can just sit down and have a cup of coffee and relax and talk. And and it's a good show.
Yes, agreed.
Freaking Alec Baldwin's on there. I can't stand that man, but it was interesting sitting and listening to him talk to Jerry Seinfeld.
I might have been interested until he murdered somebody.
Well, yeah,
that's the only time I would.
He almost murders a waiter in the show.
Well,
like he's a prick to the waiter.
Wow.
But I'm just like, well, that's Alec Baldwin.
Yep,
that's him.
So he just shows his true colors, regardless of where he's at.
Just genuine.
Yep. Gosh, he needs to die just like the Golden Globes. All righty.
Oh, man.
That's it for that topic of discussion. Let's move on to our vices topic. Talking about our vices.
Talking about
coming out of the break with the
vices segment. Okay.
I don't know what. A whole bunch of nonsense. I don't know what that was.
The way you said that was great. It's talking about.
Talking about.
It's not like a radio host. Coming back at you at 4 o'clock this evening.
It's like a mixture of like Bill Cosby with like
a baseball announcer.
Talking about.
Yeah, running to third base over here. We got a fly ball. Okay, I'm done.
Okay.
Joe Pudding.
Jello pudding pop. Let me put my pills in your pudding.
That was great.
Oh.
That was fantastic. It still got shot. Hey, come on, Bill. What else you got going on over there? Cosby, what else?
They let me out of prison, but I didn't have enough pudding.
What, you didn't get no pudding in the showers?
Oh, my God.
They wouldn't let me sneak my pills into the showers.
I just about had a heart attack on that one. Oh, put the
I didn't know
pills in the pudding.
I didn't know we were
my
going to put
pudding
the
pills.
rape pills in the pudding.
It's like, come over here, have my pudding pills.
Let me get some of that pudding soap.
It's like, now, Theo, when you first put the pill in the pudding, you got to make sure the girl's not looking. It's like, honey, look over there, pudding pill.
Pudding pill.
Pudding pill.
Maybe he snuggled him in with the soap.
Oh, he's like, there's always room for pudding.
Pudding pills.
And they break drugs.
Oh man,
Oh,
I didn't know we
Lord.
were going to
That
get
was
Bill
good.
on the show.
That was
Yeah.
real
I
good.
didn't know Bill Cosby was coming to grace us with his presence.
Oh.
Well, our Vices topic has nothing to do with Bill Cosby.
Well, maybe.
It has everything.
I mean, his was a little bit different type of avarice, but
I
Yeah.
just lost 2 pounds laughing. Gosh sakes.
No, we're talking about, avarice. Oh,
What
is
about
that?
it?
What does that fancy word mean? Does avarice ever go away?
I thought you misspelled it. I thought it was, does a vice ever go away?
avarice, as in avarice,
Somebody
and,
mistyped that
avarice and
bad.
greed.
It's an extreme greed for wealth or
Yeah.
material possession.
Yep.
I think it goes
And-
away when you get it.
No.
Well, that's the point. But is there always that ever-ending quest, the never-ending quest of wanting more?
Yeah.
Does that ever go away? Does avarice? Is there ever a pinnacle at which you say, "I've got enough. I'm blessed. I'm good."
I think with the help of our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ,
Yeah.
yes,
yeah,
it will
absolutely.
go away.
I think
I mean, I'm just being serious.
I think for those like that are like I have enough. I wonder if they ever had avarice to begin with, because it's like once you obtain so like you could say they were greedy, but it's like I feel like avarice is something like there is never enough. So like if you're a type of person that gets rich, you're like I have enough now. It's like maybe you were a little greedy, but you didn't have avarice in your heart.
Needed some more pudding. That's all.
No, it never enough. I'm just thinking of Christina
never
Ferguson
enough.
going, never enough on
Oh, I know
the
what you're
show,
talking about.
The Greatest Showman.
I know exactly what you're talking about. Yes, yes.
I was thinking
I know what you're talking
This
about.
beer's going to
what's
my
the
head,
what's
man.
the 80s rock song where the lyrics "One more is never enough," and
I know exactly. I know that one too. Damn
that's
it.
what I thought
Y'all are
of.
both picking up on good ones. But I am thinking
Lord.
of The Greatest Showman. Never, never, never.
I'm like, what are you
enough.
doing with your hands right now? You're like pushing an invisible wall.
You're dancing,
She's
man.
like a meme. I'm like, what in the heck is going on? I hated that part of that movie.
I know there are some that don't stick, but that movie's still a good movie.
It is a good movie.
I would somewhat tend to agree with Keith. However, I don't. I mean, I think as a human, obviously, I think it depends on, where you live. I mean, I don't know what I.
I'm looking around this room and I'm thinking, it's never enough.
It's all this equipment,
Yeah.
what I have.
No, I
Trust me,
relate to it. I'm not. It's not a judgment at all.
There's
It's
always room for more.
It's definitely like, oh yeah, we could use a new one of these.
Oh, trust
I
me.
could definitely use a new couple of things.
Oh, absolutely.
So,
And
What is your dog barking at?
She heard. I think
Something is
Brian.
happening.
I think Brian's got Farnsley outside. I think that's what it is. Edie, come here, girl. Come here. Get in here. Come here. Come here. Stop bark. Come here. Get in here.
it's never enough with you, is it?
Yes. Sit down.
Get in here and sit.
Sit. You're fine. Be good. Be good, pup. Yeah. But no, I think obviously being an American, we're blessed beyond belief. I mean, the amount of things that we materially have in this
Yeah.
country is far more than what the rest of the
We don't
world-
know what it means to want.
No, and I think it's
And yet we want more.
well, I was gonna say agreed. I mean that is the real the tragic nature of it is that it can I sit here and claim that the avarice I have for again more is not is somehow paramount or tantamount to that of a child in Africa who just wants something to eat on a
I
daily
wouldn't call
basis.
the child in Africa that called avarice.
No,
not
that's what I'm
greed.
saying.
They
I-
actually need it.
Right. And that's what I'm saying. I wouldn't at all compare those two.
Yeah.
And I think so often we get caught up in this country and in our daily lives of just only. I mean, look, it's not a common or uncommon for people in not even third world countries, other first world countries that are just like, oh, those Americans are so stuck up. They think the world revolves around them. And I'm like, well, I mean, there's a good reason for that, and it's like we do have a huge.
We live in a land of plenty. Be
We
jelly.
And there's a lot that we provide others.
They're
and
just
there's-
jealous. They hate us because they hate us.
They hate us because they hate
It's
us.
like those poor starving Africans. They just hate us because they hate us.
Hey, I said other first world countries.
Yeah.
And they often get it's not about even being jealous. They just look at us like we're a bunch of stuck up Americans that think the world revolves around us. And then I'm like, well, if our president wouldn't just keep shoveling out money to everybody, maybe we wouldn't be so important, I guess.
Yeah.
But no, we've elected to be the world policeman.
Yeah, they hate us until they want our money.
Well, exactly.
That's what I was getting ready to say. At the same time, they're calling
I didn't want
us-
to turn this political. By
Yeah,
the way. I didn't
yeah.
want to go down that road.
Well,
but-
avarice sometimes leads
calling
that
us
way.
terrible Americans, but then they're like, "Could you please
Yeah,
give me a little bit of
Please,
what
more.
you got?" Yeah,
Can I have some more?
But ultimately, as an individualistic,
Twist.
as an individual, no doubt, I would say that I don't think it ever goes away.
Yeah.
I can pray about it. It's definitely, I think, a vice that you can, you can agree is there, that you can, come to terms with, and admitting that it is a problem. I mean, I'm a Lutheran, but Martin Luther's dying words were, "We are beggars, this is true." So it's like, I don't think he's wrong there. I mean, I think it's true. It's like we're always wanting for more, regardless of, like you pointed out, Sean, that it's like we've already been given the greatest gift of all.
well, I think you can want more in selfish ways, and you can want more in admirable ways too.
Yeah.
I think you can want more of a relationship
True.
with God. You can want more ambition and strive towards what you do at work. Like it can never, work is never enough for some people. It's like, well, I've achieved this now. I got to climb this Everest, and then I'm gonna go to the next one. And it's like, yeah. So I think there's maybe a good side to that too, as long as it is not interfering with the other aspects of your life.
Yeah.
But then, the negative is the selfish side of that, where it's like, I want more and more.
And that's what I would attribute avarice towards more. I don't think just merely wanting more in and of itself avarice, but it is, I think, that more selfish-driven need to constantly obtain more wealth, more power, more, in a way that could be detrimental.
I mean, definitionally, it is particularly based on wealth and material possession.
Yeah. So, and in that aspect, I was like, I think there are probably plenty of people who are without avarice. But I definitely think, I think if you're that type of person that is already quick to avarice, that is something that doesn't.
I didn't know the word until tonight,
Yeah.
so I don't know if I have it or not. Yeah. It's like I'm just.
Are you ever satisfied with with wealth and fame, I guess, or wealth
I don't
and
have
material,
fame,
material possessions?
and I have enough for comfort.
Do you feel you have
I don't
enough
think that's
material
wealth.
possessions? Do you want more? You want more.
Yeah, I do. I mean, come on. We all have it at this table.
It's like I'm happy with what I got while I got it.
But you want
Right.
more.
But it's like,
Dude, no.
I
I
mean,
mean, this
there's a
is-
new phone coming out next year. Why
Right.
not get one?
No, the fact
And then
that
when I
like,
get it, I'm happy with it.
I want-
until the next one comes out.
you're talking about looking around this room. There's
Yeah.
tons that I have way more than
we
most
all
others.
have avarice. We have momentary lapse of
Yeah.
without avarice, and
Yeah,
then the rest of
I
the
would
time
agree
we
with
have
that.
it.
Oh yeah, no doubt.
Yeah.
And I have no doubt that I think that does depend on how not only blessed we are in general. And I mean, look, I think you can have it even as a kid. It's like, okay, maybe this wasn't my forte when I was younger, but it was definitely like, oh, after I get one game for Christmas, I want another one.
Yeah.
Especially once I beat
You
it.
don't even like play that one.
Right.
Play that one halfway through, and then
You're
you
like,
want the
oh, I'm
next one
bored.
that's
I
coming out.
want another one.
Yeah.
Got to get that fix.
Gosh, I have avarice. I know I do.
Or avarice.
Keith, what about you?
I didn't say I didn't have it. I just said that.
No, it just looked like you were going to say
I'm in
something.
fact-
Oh
no,
no, I don't think I have anything else to add. I agree. There's definitely, I think everyone has some desire for more. I don't like. Again, I think some of those are warranted when you're in a first world country and starving. But then in our regard, where it's like, I want another iPad. It's like I don't need that.
Like, I think I try to temper my, it's not really expectations, temper my wants and my desires when I do have those urges. And I try to think to myself, like, I have plenty. I shouldn't want for anything.
I don't think, what do I actually need? Like, is this something I actually
Justified.
need? Or
But then
Yeah, it's
that's
just justified.
That's when I know the devil's working, because that's also when I start to justify it in my own ways in my head to
Right.
make sure I get it.
Well, see, I recognize those too. It's like, I can create justifications, but I think, okay, is this actually a practical need, a practical justification?
Right.
Or am I just making up crap because I want it?
And I think would we all agree that we all struggle with that?
yeah.
I mean, no doubt. And it's like, I think that's just part of becoming, part of being a sinner. I think it's part of...
Show me the money.
That's right. That's right. That's right. And at the end of the day, it's like, if it ain't money, either money talks or you walk. I was trying to make that into something. That was
trying
terrible.
to make AC/DC song.
Was that it? Is that the song I'm quoting?
Money Talks is
Money
the
Talks,
AC/DC song.
Something walks. I can't remember. There's a line.
There's
like
a
that.
lyric in that song
Yeah.
about walking, but I don't remember.
I don't think I'm quoting it right. I
You're
butchered
not.
it.
You're not.
I butchered it. If there was something I did have avarice about, it was more wisdom and knowledge. No doubt.
You don't have avarice about that.
You can't, because that doesn't make any sense. That
You
doesn't
don't
even
have
fit the
avarice.
definition.
It doesn't. But I'm
fit the
just saying you
definition.
have no greed for knowledge.
So
Don't
did we
lie.
answer the question? Does avarice go away?
It doesn't.
It doesn't.
It doesn't.
No sin ever goes away. It can't.
So that's a trick
until-
question. You
Yeah.
already knew the answer to the
Sin
question.
doesn't go away until
tricked our
Christ.
audience.
Until Christ returns, sin will never go away.
I tricked our audience just like Bill Cosby tricked those women.
Pudding.
Pudding box.
It was never
That's
enough.
right.
Never enough for him.
Never enough.
Remember your pudding pills, Theo.
Pudding pills. Oh, gosh. All right,
Here's
guys.
Fat Albert. He's got all the pudding pills. Don't give him the mush mouth. I had to throw that one in there.
Oh man,
I love Mushmouth, and he's now like the one everybody says is racist because
the whole show was racist.
no, it was made by a black man. It,
It
can't be
doesn't
racist.
matter.
It's like,
Still-
hey, it's like Little Bill, man. I loved Little Bill.
I didn't care so
great.
much for Little Bill, but
It was great.
I know what you're talking about.
When I was a kid, I loved Little Bill. It wasn't racist. I don't get it, man. What's up is down and down is up.
That's
It doesn't
right.
make any sense anymore. This world's gone to hell.
Avarice.
That's good. And it is. Avarice is just a part of it. All right, guys, that's going to do it for this episode of the Red Moon Podcast. Thank you all so much for tuning in. As always, like, share, subscribe. All of our social media accounts right there at the bottom of your screen. Red Moon Book on Facebook, Red Moon Tweet on X, Red Moon Pics on Instagram, and, of course, search for Red Moon Productions on YouTube and Facebook. Or, sorry, YouTube and Rumble. Rumble, yes.
Rumble.
Still trying to get Rumble to work so that we can be live on there. We're working with them. They've actually emailed and reached out to us.
They're trying to make it happen, which is really
Legit.
cool.
I reached out to them. They gave me the offer to use their Rumble Studio, which is kind of like Restream, which is what we use to put it out simulcasted on a bunch of different social media platforms.
Cool.
Yeah.
They reached back out, and I was like, I can only hook it up to Facebook, like to my personal page, but I want to hook it up, or my personal profile. I want to hook it up to pages that
Yeah.
I'm ownership of. And they were like, oh, so that's a feature you would like? I was like, yeah, absolutely. They were like, we're working on it. 2 days later, they were like, hey, just want to let you know we're still trying to make this work. Just give us some time.
Nice.
So I'm like, they're out there trying. I
Yeah.
give credit to Rumble. I'd love to use their platform. We already somewhat subsequently use it by putting our older stuff kind of gets shuffled on there eventually from YouTube. But I really want to make Rumble like one of our mainstays just because it's a competitive platform.
And they deserve
And they
it.
care about free speech. So
Yeah.
absolutely we want to support them.
Well, the fact that they've actually reached out
Yeah.
and trying to
Yeah.
assist you.
Only thing
makes
YouTube
me,
does
yeah.
is take our content down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're like, we're not
Copyright
trying.
strike.
Yeah. YouTube's not trying to help us get anywhere. They're just like, remove it.
It's like, how is it copyright strike? Well, somebody in India and their partnership with somebody in China said that they own the rights to this video strike.
It's like Universal
What?
didn't like that you reviewed Promising Young Woman poorly, so we had to take it down.
Right.
Yeah.
It's so annoying. It's the corporate
You
games
gave
we
Moonlight 2 stars, so we had to remove it.
play. Yeah, you're telling the truth. But that was where all of our social media links. There is one other way you can reach out to us. That's the old-fashioned way, the good old way of reaching out to us. Keith knows it best.
RMPodcast at redmoonproductions.com.
Just beautiful. Every time he says it. Shiver up my leg. I don't know what it is, man.
Button bills.
Alrighty, guys.
We're
gives
gonna
you a
get sued
shiver
by
up
Bill
your leg.
Cosby for.
No, everybody hates him now.
That's going to do it for this episode of the Red Moon Podcast. Thank you all so much for tuning in. Until next time, I'm one of your hosts, Brandon Davidson, alongside our normal new host,
John Sebastian.
And hello. Is it me you're looking for?
Hello.
We hope you enjoyed this week's episode. For more reviews, previous podcast shows, and everything Red Moon, visit our website, redmoonproductions.com. You can also like us on Facebook or follow us on Twitter by searching for Red Moon Productions, LLC. We'll see you at the movies.